Hey guys, welcome to this week's property news. So what I want to do today was to really give you an overview of the fundamentals that are going on. Because the interesting thing I find with the whole game right now is that there's so much distraction or distracting news and media about the negative side of things, but then there's also the voice of reason. And I guess the challenge we've got right now is we've got all this data coming in and these fundamentals and things going on. And what are we to believe? Are we to believe that we're actually going to go into a massive crash, the likes of 2008, 2007, 2008, or is it the fact that actually the UK is going to be quite insulated against it? And certainly I'm of the second opinion rather than the first. But I think the real thing here is, and what's clouding most of our judgments and making it really hard, and let's make no mistakes, our politicians are a bunch of buffoons. They are monkeys hanging around in trees because they have no clue what they're doing. There's no direction, there's no leadership. Everyone's out for themselves. It's all about, feathering their own nest, it seems. Really, there's nothing inspirational about them. That's what really disappoints me is, you just don't have the inspiration. And, that's not just the UK too. This is the worldwide, because you look at all the stuff that's going on with the US and Trump. I mean, he's king buffoon. But anyway, the whole problem with this is that all of this stuff, whether it be Brexit, whether it be Trump, whether it be Kim Jong-il and North Korea, it's all creating uncertainty, and that's the fundamental here. Where there's uncertainty, that's where the market actually will give the shutters, and that's where you won't get good stable growth. That's where you get lots of negativity, and that's where you get the chances of stepping back in the recession. And the interesting thing is, if you look at it, we're 10 years, since the last downturn and last recession. And actually, if we think about it, we go through these cycles every round about 10 years, and the interesting thing is, that hasn't happened yet. Things have been pretty good. And I'll validate that by saying this. They haven't been really good. I mean, you've just got to look at the house market, the housing market still reeling a decade after the financial crisis. And this is absolutely true. Not true of London. London has done very well. It's recovered very well. Commuter towns have recovered very well. But the rest of the UK has really suffered. I mean, Manchester, Liverpool, a few exceptions here and there. But for the most of the UK, you're probably sitting on your house value around about what it was 10 years ago, and not much has happened in the meantime, which is pretty bad considering that, we used to say the biggest assumption in property was that it doubles every 7 to 10 years. That hasn't happened for most houses, around the UK. They're only now starting to look like things, and the local market is starting to get back in. So I actually think, and this is my prediction too, is I don't think we're going to have a big recession, and I don't think we'll have a recession at all. I think actually the downturn this time will be very, very mild for the UK. Because why? Because if you have a galloping, massive, lift up, then you're likely to have the drop off. Okay, but because we've actually had this, lift and then really curbed through Brexit and through tax changes and through all these things, and a lot of them for me are, what I call self-harming, ourselves. It's like there's no real reason for them apart from stupidity on them, a politician's part. But really, by having that crest, the lower crest, the actual bottom out or the trough is going to be a lot less. So actually, that's quite good news. And if you get through all the rubbish and garbage in the news, you'll find actually there's some pretty good news out there. House price, UK house price growth ticks up. London prices are falling. Actually, London prices have been falling for the last 2 years. We've been saying this for the last 2 years. They've been not falling dramatically, but they've been tapering off. They haven't been growing. They've been a lot more reasonable. So that's happened. And actually, now what I've started to see is the bottom being called for the London market, which is another interesting thing, because most people think we're just starting to see it. We're not just starting to see it. Don't listen to what the newspapers say. Yeah, the thing is the newspapers always come in well after the fact. They're not ahead of the curve. They're not riding the wave. So, this is interesting. So, this data that's coming out now, the market is still good. First-time buyers are buying. You can get mortgages, albeit they're a lot more subdued. And if you're trying to remortgage and buy more expansion portfolio, it's a lot harder to do that. Okay, so for me, that's where it's highway robbery. And they're actually robbing a lot of people of their pension, retirement, and future. because certainly pension funds and big corporations are not looking after them and not producing the results that they, supposedly should. And of course, they're regulated, so they can hide behind that wall, but that's me, a property guy, saying that. But I'm sure if you've seen your pension, you're probably not that impressed with it. And if you've seen the fees and the hidden fees and all that sort of stuff that's gone on over the last 20 years, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. UK house price growth slows, with London and North East hardest hit. Absolutely, why they had quite good growth. North East, look, we'll talk about it in another video, but effectively London and the surrounds have been the real big benefits of the last 10 years. Now we're starting to see the rest of the UK do quite well. And actually, even in the North East, funnily enough, the local market is doing quite well, okay? So, there's transactions happening. The problem is a lot of stuff isn't coming to the market. There's not enough stuff being built because of all these other issues, which we'll talk about elsewhere, that mean that actually we're not building enough, so prices are continuing to grow and we continue to grow. And anyone that says in 10 years' time, buy-to-let's dead, get out of buy-to-let, they're going to be shown as fools, because the reality is buy-to-let is not dead. Yes, they've made it harder. Yes, you have to be more focused on making money. Yes, you have to act like it's a business and be a professional. Yeah? But actually, that's not such of a bad thing. If you accept those rules of the game, then you will make money. There's no way that all these big companies are investing billions into the UK property. There's no way all these Chinese and Asian investors whose local economy is doing very well that are investing in the UK because they see it as a fantastic investment. That hasn't changed. Yeah, they still see the fundamentals long term. And in 10 years' time, people who got out of buy-to-let because they said, end of buy-to-let, death of buy-to-let, they'll be looking back going, egg on my face, I'm a bloody idiot. Well, don't be a bloody idiot. Yeah, get in, but what you're going to realise is you're going to have to jump through a few more hoops. Simple as that. Get over it, learn the rules of the game, apply the rules of the game, and you will make money without any doubt. Okay, guys, have a great day. Live with passion.